Alright, coolio, got it. There you go.
Okay, cool. So I'll just like run through and decide and say how much you want.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Go.
Alright. So why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Amanda Granis. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Chemistry, and I'm the co-director of the Villanova Center for Energy and Environmental Education.
Okay, great. And could you define in a few words sustainability?
Sustainability is actually one of those terms that's really hard to define, because depending on what background you have coming into it, that kind of gauges how you approach sustainability. So people in the business world will have a completely different thought process than people, say, coming at it from an engineering standpoint. So in terms of trying to come up with a catch-all description or definition, I would probably say I think of sustainability as being able to meet your needs without keeping others or future generations from the ability to meet their own needs.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree with that. And in regards to the sustainability measures here, what are the goals of your center to meet those?
So our center approaches this more from an educational aspect. There are a lot of institutes and research centers out there that are actually exploring the fundamental research of energy to try to come up with renewable energy resources or things like that. Oh.
Sorry. That's my baby.
It's okay. We'll rewind and okay. Do you want me to start that one again?
Yeah, could you?
Okay. So wait, what was the question?
What are the goals of your center in regards to sustainability?
We'll remember this. So the goals of our center with regards to sustainability are we're approaching it more from the educational aspect rather than, say, fundamental research. There are a lot of institutes and centers out there that look at research in terms of developing the next renewable energy resource or making solar energy more efficient. We're looking at it more from the educational standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
So Villanova has a very strong liberal arts tradition. We're very focused on interdisciplinary discussions and learning. And so that's where we think we can make the biggest impact. So essentially our long-term lofty goal is we want everyone coming out of Villanova to understand issues related to energy, climate change, sustainability, environmental degradation. So what we really want is for a Villanova degree to be synonymous with understanding and appreciating sustainability.
Yeah,
So
I agree with that
goal.
because as long as they have an understanding, they can go through life with that education and kind of make educated decisions based on that.
Exactly.
So kind of going off of that, what served as the catalyst to develop your institution on campus? So you want to educate people, but since it is privately funded from the Dean's Fund of Strategic Initiatives, what kind of started this decision to educate people through this privately funded institution on Villanova instead of, say, maybe just having one course or something?
Mm-hmm. Well, we already have a lot of things going on at Villanova in a lot of different areas. So we have, from sort of facility standpoints, we're trying to make the buildings greener, building LEED certified buildings, dining services, we're developing composting
that's great.
projects and things like that. We have individual departments have interests, say, from engineering or business or political science aspects, and they'll have their individual courses. What we were looking to try to do was to bring all of these different activities together under an umbrella where everyone was talking to everyone else. Because a lot of these things are happening within the bubble of a department or a certain area of campus activities. And a lot of times, as we started looking into things going on, we didn't even realize all the different things happening on campus. Because a lot of people, we call it having sort of academic silos. We tend to stick with what we know. We stick within our department, and we don't necessarily, because we are busy and we also have our focus within our area, we don't branch out as much as I think we could, and so we don't know what's going on in all these different sectors on campus. So what we hoped to build was sort of that umbrella that could capture all these other things going on campus.
Yeah, like a consistency and coordination with them.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of know what Villanova is doing as a whole.
Exactly.
And that way maybe you could even push further the limits of what you're doing.
Exactly, but not take over those activities.
Yeah, just
Everyone's
be aware
still
of
doing
what's going on, maybe what's not going on, how to support each other.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly. How could we pool resources? You know, not reinvent the wheel. Have, you know, two different activities going on, and they're kind of replicating each other. You know, pool resources and make it an even bigger event. And then again, from the aspect of sort of education, trying to improve and expand our curriculum and bring more sustainability and climate and energy topics into existing courses while thinking about maybe, you know, building new courses and designing new courses and new programs and new degrees and those sorts of things. So it happens to be just very well timed that as we were starting to think of these ideas so it was myself and Jared Paul, who's also a chemistry professor here, we were into the kind of just discussions over lunch and things kind of started the ball rolling. And then that would have been the fall of 2012. And then in the spring, the dean announced this initiative, essentially a private donor who has decided to remain anonymous. The dean knows who it is, but we don't. Essentially gave a donation and said, you know, we want you to put it where you think things are important. Initiatives you think things are important. And so that usually doesn't happen very often. A lot of times people that donate money, they have their interest, their
agenda,
pet project that they want the money to go toward. This is almost a very open-ended thing, which is really unique and a very good opportunity. And so the dean announced essentially a competition to establish these centers of excellence. And we wrote a proposal, and I think there were 10 or 12 proposals put in, and 3 were funded. And so we were one of them.
Wow.
And so essentially what it does is it gives us 3 years sort of as a pilot project to get ourselves off the ground, show that there's a need for it, there's interest in it, that we can be successful as a center and do activities and do these different initiatives, and then from there kind of grow and branch out.
Yeah.
So we're in year 2 right now.
That's great. So kind of going off of that, you talked about how you're starting to offer some courses here and things. You were actually telling me about an event earlier today. What is kind of your position of outreach? So you host events. What else do you try and do to get people involved and kind of get people interested so this does remain a thing on campus?
So one of the things that is really important is consistency, having not just one event per semester that people go to and then kind of forget about it before. You kind of need a consistent presence, essentially. And so in October, we had an event that we co-sponsored with the Center for Peace and Justice Education. It was related to the Feast of St. Francis, which happened in early October.
I saw that, yeah.
And so we had, sort of a discussion-oriented, I don't want to say it was a panel. It wasn't really a panel, but it was, we watched some videos, had some open-ended discussions about how we interact, sort of care for creation kind of ideas, how faith and environmental protection can kind of work together from that standpoint. And then we're actually building on that in November. We have an event that actually is a panel. We have a retired rear admiral from the Navy coming in who led basically a climate change initiative within the Navy to look at how climate change would affect security.
Okay.
We have someone coming in on that same panel. We have the executive director of the Catholic Climate Covenant, and then we also have a representative from Catholic Relief Services. And so they're going to have a panel talking about how faith and protection of care for creation, protection of the environment, and all these things can kind of tie together in terms of care for creation, care for the poor, how climate change works into that.
So that'll be an event here that students can all go to.
Yep, that's open to Villanova and the general public.
Okay.
The wider community is open to everybody, and so that's going to be in a couple weeks. Next week we have Richard Alley coming in. He is a world-renowned geologist, glaciologist, climate change scientist. He was part of the intergovernmental panel on climate change, who shared the Nobel Prize in 2007 with Al Gore. And so he's going to be on campus for 2 days to give 2 talks in the cinema in the Connolly Center. And so one is going to be more oriented toward the general public, talking about energy and the environment. And, you know, a lot of times you hear all these stories and it just seems so depressing. It's like it's all bad news.
Yeah.
He's approaching it more from, and this is kind of in line with our center goals, that these are opportunities for development of new, new products, new energy sources, ways to make the environment better. So this is sort of, the catalyst behind it is sort of bad news, but there are opportunities in here too. And so he's kind of taking that stance in this talk on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, he's going to do more of a sort of the scientific, technical aspects of climate, and particularly related to ice sheets and glacier melting and sea level change and those sorts of things. So.
Yeah, I like that you're viewing it as, instead of a loss, of using, say, like oil and gas that emits the CO2 and things such as that, it's more of a gain of new opportunities. We can expand, we can innovate. I really like that, actually, that outlook.
Because a lot of times, I mean, you get, the whole goal is we're trying to educate people and help them, empower them to go make changes in the world, and to make the world a better place. It's a very lofty goal, but if you always approach it from this sort of very negative, the sky is falling aspect, you disengage people, and they become disheartened. They feel like, well, there's nothing I can do. Little old me, what am I going to do? Recycling that water bottle really isn't going to do anything in the grand scheme. And so if you approach it from that, you're kind of defeating the purpose of what you want to do. So that's my opinion as one person. But
yeah, I mean, it may sound lofty, but it's also, I think, eventually conceivable. I mean, because you go on the internet and you see this influx of like negative debates and things like that, and people like yelling at each other. And like the other night I was looking at Congress, I think in like 2012 had this meeting, and one of the I think a few of the congressmen were debating against the scientist about how true all these things are going to be. But it's like, you don't have to take it so negatively, you know. I mean, obviously you're going to maybe lose the business of oil. Maybe it'll still be a thing, but it won't be as popular. But you need to allow for a change, and you need to allow for these new things to come. Otherwise, we're just going to be stuck here. I definitely like that. And then maybe just a few more questions. So we were wondering, you have a few faculty members who are participating in this institution. How do you decide which faculty members should participate in this? Kind of what's your background? Do you have a general background, or we saw that some people had specific backgrounds in this?
It's open to anyone, really. So the faculty that are listed on our website are just essentially people that have kind of been in it from the beginning to try to get things off the ground. As we expand and as we get new activities and initiatives going, we have faculty that keep coming into the fold. So it's not as if we, have any kind of an application process or anything. Anyone that's interested in sustainability, climate, energy, environment issues, from whatever aspect, whether it's scientific, technological, the political side, the social justice side, everyone's welcome. We don't we don't have any sort of picking and choosing of faculty. And everyone, in terms of sort of the academic side, I mean, everyone has their own little area of interest, their research specialty or their scholarly interests, and those tend to be fairly well defined and fairly narrow. For an example, myself, I'm a chemist. I do mostly environmental and atmospheric chemistry. If you narrow it down even further, I look at the chemistry happening in snow and ice. I do field work in the Arctic. So it's very well defined and very narrow in terms of my interest, but that feeds into a larger environmental issue of the Arctic is the place where we're seeing the fastest change in terms of climate, that the sea ice is melting at an unprecedented rate, that's the place on Earth that's warming the fastest compared to other places. And so my research feeds into a bigger question of how are things going to change as the nature of the Arctic changes. So looking at the chemistry happening in snow and ice is one teeny weeny little piece of that puzzle. So when you look at the faculty research, it does look like there's very narrow specialties, but we all are coming from different backgrounds and different aspects of sustainability and climate and energy that kind of feed into this bigger picture of, okay, things are changing, what do we do to manage that change? How do we sort of, how do we make ourselves be, as a society, more resilient to actually cope with that change that's coming down the road? Whether it's coming 10, 50, 100 years, that's an open-ended question. But, we all kind of, from different aspects, whether it be science, policy, economics, business, we all have different pieces we can fit into that puzzle and hopefully come up with a big picture, solution, and way forward.
Okay, great.
It's a very long answer to
yeah, no, but I
your
liked
question.
it.
Yeah, no, I was going to
And
ask
that
you about the
kinda
art
spurred
there.
a few more questions of mine. You could answer either or both. So the first half is, what do you think is that you're most proud of that the center has achieved so far? And then also we're talking about the faculty being involved in everything. Is there any room for student involvement? Have you had any of that? Like anything beyond just attending some these lectures and everything, which is still great.
Yeah, so in terms of, I guess, what we might be proudest of, I'm proud, in a general aspect, I'm very proud that we've managed to be able to successfully reach out across colleges. I mean, we're an initiative within the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, but one of our goals was to help initiate and catalyze cross-college discussions. Because even worse than being sort of within a silo of a department or a discipline, we tend to also have silos within the engineers stay with the engineers, and the business people stay with the business school, and we tend to kind of compartmentalize ourselves that way, and that cuts off a lot of really active discussions and things that can happen if we start talking to each other. So we've actually had really good feedback and really good involvement from people across the colleges, whether it be in different workshops we've had, or at meetings, or people coming to lectures and panels and things that we've hosted. We've had a lot of new faces that we normally wouldn't see in our kind of day-to-day activities within our college. In terms of specific activity, we had a really successful workshop this past May called Sustainability Across the Curriculum. And the goal for that was we offered a workshop where we had different people, both from Villanova and the external community, come in and talk about what is sustainability, how it could be incorporated into the curriculum, whether it be a course that's already existing that you kind of want to maybe put a spin on it to incorporate discussions of climate, energy, sustainability, environment, or maybe developing new courses. And we initially thought we might get 10 to 20 faculty, because this was the first time we had offered anything like this. We thought, if we get 10 or 20, we'll be really happy. And this was something that the faculty didn't have to apply to be a part of, because we had, a limited amount of space and things we could do. We had 40 faculty.
Wow.
From across, we had engineers, we had sciences, we had humanities and social sciences, we had business, we had someone from the law school, so we had nursing.
Wow.
And so we actually had representation from everywhere on campus.
Yeah, so
and
what
it was
more could you ask?
overwhelming. Yeah. We actually, the budget that we had for it kind of wasn't going to support 40 people.
Yeah.
So we actually ended up going out to other places on campus and getting additional financial contributions to support, because we didn't want to turn anyone away, because we had this overwhelming positive response.
That's great, yeah.
And so essentially everyone that participated, the whole goal was, okay, you're going to leave, and then over the summer, so this happened in May, and then over the summer they essentially revised a particular course that they taught, that they were interested in incorporating more sustainability ideas and discussions and topics and readings and things into. And then at the end of the summer we came back again and met again as a group and talked about how we were actually revising our syllabi.
Cool.
And so we have, depending on how you count the courses and things, because some have multiple sections and all this, we have 30 to 40 courses now, whether they were existing or new courses developed, that essentially went from really not having much of a sustainability focus, or maybe not at all, to now having this sustainability, idea built into the course. So this goes back to our goal of, we want people graduating from Villanova to have this
probably like
very
our course.
solid background. In
Our course probably has a
Yeah,
sustainability
relatively
component.
new.
Yeah.
So, and your professor was one of the ones that participated participated in a workshop too.
Steph
I wouldn't be
Katz.
surprised.
Shout out to Steph Katz right
Shout
now.
out to Steph Katz. So yeah, so it was really great because we were able to get different perspectives from different people as we talked amongst ourselves, you know, different ideas for, I want to try this activity, or I want to have students do this project, and we really kind of fed off of each other. And normally that doesn't happen. When you're developing a course, you're usually sitting in an office like this by yourself, you know, looking up resources and things from your literature and whatever your area of specialty is. But it was really refreshing to get out and be in a room of 30 or 40 other academics from completely different backgrounds. I mean, we had sociology and criminal justice sitting beside chemistry, sitting beside civil engineering. You know, and like having that interchange of ideas
cool
and perspectives was really,
because it kind of creates
cool.
a community, which is kind of what you need when you have this new kind of movement going on.
Yes, exactly.
And you need it to start from the faculty and trickle down to the students and get them motivated. And definitely our class gets motivated by it. So I mean, obviously it's work.
And from the student, you also asked about the student perspective. We definitely, I mean, the first year or so was just kind of getting it off the ground. You know, the first few years of anything, you have some growing pains you're going through. And so, but one of the goals we had from the very beginning was to have students involved in developing new projects and interacting with, you know, speakers we're bringing in and things like that. So, you know, as part of Dr. Alley's visit, we want to have students, like have student lunches where faculty aren't even there. It's just him and the students interacting. So I will send you an email about that if you wanted to participate. And so, but we also eventually, an eventual goal was for this center, what we would like to have would be some sort of almost like a board of directors kind of mechanism that helps guide, you know, events and initiatives and things. So it's not just on, you know, the two directors. We can come up with great ideas, but if we had a bigger consortium to kind of
absolutely
come up with ideas
with different
keep scheduling them
backgrounds,
regularly.
exactly. And so what we would like to have is sort of this board of directors that would have people from different kind of walks of life on campus. So we would have some faculty, have some students, maybe someone from facilities or dining services, from, you know, an administrator or two, from sort of like the higher up, and have them all kind of oversee activities that are going on, come up with new ideas, new initiatives, go out and try to, you know, bring from their areas, you know, bring more interest and get the word out about the center. So that's, but again, that's one of those, you have to kind of take baby steps along the way, and so I think we'll get there eventually. So, but yeah, we're definitely always looking for students to, you know, help out with events, or if they have an idea for, you know, a new event, you know, new initiative on campus we can try. So
we'll pass the word along.
Absolutely.
I know we're interested in that.
Please.
We're running out of time.
Interview the global. What is it? The Global Learning Center now. We're running to Bartlett.
For leadership.
Leadership. Global Leadership Center.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna interview them today, and then P&J.
How do I stop
is that
recording?
Jonathan Doe by chance?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, he's part of he's great.
Do I press this button?
I think you just press. Yeah, you press that again.